moving. Ça bouge. Pour l'instant, j'entends rien, c'est tout noir, mais c'est plus un écran bleu, c'est pas seulement noir. Il y a un progrès.
Là, si tu parles au micro, déjà, les intervenants extérieurs, ils
sont disponibles. This camera, okay. C'est Petteri qui fait l'introduction.
Ah oui, d'accord, ok.
Petteri, si vous parlez anglais, vous pouvez vous adresser à lui. Si vous parlez anglais, vous pouvez vous adresser à lui.
Yeah, and the array is ready on the line.
Okay, we can start and introduce the session and so on.
Yeah. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Everybody hearing? Okay, sorry for the delay. First time hybrid, so which means live and virtual in the same time. Part of the chairs, part of the speakers, also the audience are on virtual presentation. The first presentation would be virtual. Second and third one would be live, and the fourth one would be a video. So we are really hybrid session now. My name is Petteri Palviainen, coming from Finland. I'm the founder of Openbim Open. It was 4 years ago, 5 years ago that it was an idea, and we had 3 sessions, 3 editions in Finland, and now first time in outside of Finland, which is quite awesome to be here. So thank you. Dominic is the co-chair here from the organizer group, and you can introduce yourself.
Thank you. So my name is Dominique Chevillard. I'm Vice President of Building Smart France, and I work for the French Federation for Civil Works and Infrastructure.
Yes, thanks. Okay, the question would be IHKU, Infrastructure Cost Management System Alliance Project. It will be presented by Ari Huomo, who is Development Manager from the Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency, FTIA. He has a long career concerning economical and productivity developing and cost management in infrastructure projects. Are you ready, Ari? Can we hear you? Digitalization is not so easy, even if we are talking about the open standards, but hopefully get the connection soon.
I can see his picture. Je le vois là, ici il est sur mon écran.
Yes, we can see Ari on the stream. Can we get the stream also here in the big screen?
On peut avoir le streaming sur cet écran. Ah non, you're not going to have it because you have the presentation.
Ari, can you talk?
ask him if he can hear us.
Ari, can you hear us? We cannot hear to hear.
Maybe he should check his microphone. I don't know. We need to try.
Is your microphone muted or?
I have a presentation later in this brief session.
Okay.
You have 30 seconds. Oh, please. I finished with the slide.
Hello. Could the remote speaker speak a little bit, please? Yumo, can you speak?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
I hear you, and I had a discussion.
Okay, we don't hear you. I don't know why.
Another.
Je vais vous bouffer. Je vais vous bouffer. Perfect. Here you are.
Okay.
Okay, Ari, I think we hear you.
I think it's because...
Yes.
Oh, well,
Okay, can you start now? Please, now we can hear you.
Me? Thank you. Yes, Okay, just 7 and...
Yes, you can start.
Okay, thank you. This is Ari Vuomo. I'm working Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency, the development, and I'm going to tell you about our project HIPCO Infrastructure Post-Maintenance Management System Alliance project. Pretty long name, but it is all about cost estimation during the planning process. Here is a short overview of our project. The Alliance project is a method where client and service providers work together, and project organization combines know-how from all members. So it is some kind of cooperative project belong to the integrated project delivery methods also, but that's all about it. It will be word own presentation, but not now. We go to our project. Our client organization consists of Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency and 6 biggest cities of Finland. So we are a pretty good part of Finland. Providers with us from, for example, consultant sector and IT sector and so on. So we think we had a pretty good organization to have results in this project. There are some goals of our project. we want to have collaboration across infrastructure, and our solution should be suitable for different infrastructure projects like roads, streets, railways, and so on. We want to have high quality and transparent code calculation. That our solution would support process development in the whole area, for in planning phases, tendering, and construction also. And of course, we want to have user-friendly software activity that help them. Then I go to the planning process, a little over. We got several phases during planning process. And for example here, Finland planning, then we have pre-planning, then planning the road and railroad waterways and streets, so on, and finally construction planning and construction. And all these phases are, we look at from the point of view of post-estimation.
Ari, can you stop your video? Can you take your video? Or
Some kind of... Sorry, what did you say?
can you, Ari, take your video off so we can get the better connection maybe?
Where can I take it off?
I think there's some video camera object or something in there, so.
Okay, I tried, fine.
Connection is not the best at the moment, so.
Yes. There is
Doesn't know how to put down his video.
every video. Is it all right now? It's better now.
Yes, I think it's better now. Yes, just continue, please. Sorry.
I continue. Yes. Yes, so we got those four phases that are separated from each other. And when we start post estimation, we start all over again. For example, for financing normally, because the phases are, the purposes are a little different, and the initial data is a little different, and that kind of stuff. And that is one problem. Then I go to the principles of our solution. So, the first thing is that we want to have solution that we can have continuous cost estimation throughout the whole planning process. So when we start from earlier phases, planning phases, we can continue the cost estimation further and get better data. We could know later phases. Some basics of our models and chart. Structures. All just are based on resources that are needed to implement the project. So we are resource-based. Our calculation is very strictly resource-based. And it tries to simulate how the project is implemented on site. For example, how contract do the work. And of course, it is based on standards, for example, nomenclature, so that we can have compatibility with other systems. That is very important to us. And cost calculation, project cost calculation is in project environment and attributes. So we are personalized the project. If the project is individual, we don't use any averages. We try to find good costs just like himself, and that is the good, very big goal of us. Yeah. And like I told, in the end, more calculation is made from resource. Machines, how much machines, how much trucks. So we got quantities and we got them together, so we got prices. Here is a short overview of our system. First we make a project and make structure to the project. There are parts of project and so on. It can be enlarged later and modified anyway. So then inside the one project part, there are several construction elements inside the, and inside one construction element there are resources that is needed to produce the element, and so on. That is our hierarchy structure. And what we do when we make the setup, we just change the last part of here, this model structure with elements. We can change mapping, we can change material, and we can test something else. So that is the basic how we do. Then back to the cost estimation and what it is as a kind. One biggest problem of cost estimations is how good they fit, how good we can forecast the cost of the project. And uncertainty is the problem that we try to help to solve. Usually when project we got very rough of the cost by how many. It can be double, but it can be anything. And when we go further in the planning for the range will be more limited, more and smaller, but anyway will be there. And one important thing is that we can direct the cost the right direction. We can use really steering wheel to drive cost to some direction and try to find a good optimal cost and optimal inside of the project of what we do there. And that is main thing in during the planning process have this the problem. So we want to have a solution which will help us to fulfill that part. So we try to find ways to help risk management and uncertainty, knowing of uncertainty. Better awareness of risk and the uncertainties. We know our calculation might help where are the weak part of the calculation. And we fill in and take the update during the whole plan first. That means that we can make it input give more data to the project when we have data and change that data, never data and that kind of thing. We change data all the time and always the calculation goes fast. So we can develop scenarios of different technical solutions. We can change technical solutions, how much that costs, there's another solution, how much that costs, and so on. Also, we can develop in scenarios of different services. If the bottom comes this kind, what are the costs? If the bottom comes this, and so on. But these are the tools that we can use. And then to the BIM world. What is the connection to BIM? So, in infra-BIM models, we have information, quantities, and amounts. And that is just the most important data that we need in cost. So, when we can move data straight from move and transfer data straight from model to cost estimation, so we can have real-time cost estimate. And the interface between infra-BIM models and cost estimation is the further and the easier we get data. Nearly right away how much cost and so on. That is our big dream in this work. Unfortunately, that isn't so simple like it now, and it doesn't work yet, but anyway we are working on it. And here on the next slide are some maybe same thing in some kind of words. So, the connection to BIM models makes real-time cost estimate possible. We believe that is the way of use. We can move quantities from model to issue and also backward. We can do the cost from issue to model, infra-model. And the most important thing that this work is the standard. You got infra-BIM classification, you got infra-BIM information format, and that is where we must have some development, especially in the data transmission format. They are not good enough, they doesn't move enough or exactly enough data from part to part. So that is where we work. We believe that cost data could be found. More, for example, by the fact but most important is that cost data is there. So fluent information flow between BIM and process is our big point. It means less manual work, it means better productivity, which means interactive planning. It means the more easier it is, the more it can be quick. And also cost influences what alternative can have. Also both in estimation or in the BIM models. And one more thing about the about things, what possibilities we might have yet built. And CO2 emission calculation is pretty close to both calculations. We know we know all the quantities resources we use in the how much machines we use, how much materials, hours. And see if we got stuff so we can just calculate how much emissions would. That is it might be difficult that we could have maintenance elements and functions, etc. But anyway, it's pretty easy. But it is in the future, just when we get this one finished at the end of the year, so we can think about things. Okay, that was my presentations. Thank you. I'm ready to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Ari, and sorry for the connection problems. Dominic, is there any questions on the umbrella? I have one question, Ari. I know something about the IHKU project, but how about accuracy of initial data, and how does it affect for the whole cost management estimation? If you know how accurate the initial data would be.
Well, our accuracy. The main interesting thing about accuracy is how well we can forecast costs. And because we just started using the solution last spring, so we don't have yet any ready project to compare. But we have some calculation with the project afterward. And we also have had this solution in test with some contractors, and that those shows that our accuracy we are about in plus minus 10%. So that is pretty good for the start, I think. But our goal is more. So we got.
Okay, thanks.
The reasons what much to.
Okay,
we have more data we must have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ari. So I understood your answer, but it was a little bit bad connection again. But thank you, and we will move to the next presentation, which would be a live presentation, how ATB, mid-sized infrastructure owner, manages digitalization and thereby affects the market. So we have two presenters, Mr. Matthias Edelbach, Deputy Head of Infrastructure Management at the Canton Aargau, Switzerland, and you have been Deputy Head already from 2005. And then we have Mr. Hanna for the construction side to the infrastructure side. So welcome.
Thank you, Petri. Hello, everybody. As you might notice, I used some old-fashioned sheets with my notes on it. Also, we are talking about digitalization. First of all, I will introduce Hans Jakob and myself, as already did Petri, and I will briefly introduce the civil engineering department of the Canton Aargau called ATB, and then explain our vision of the digital information loop. We will show what we envisage will be the impact on our IT infrastructure and how we intend to shape the transformation process in our organization. Finally, we will discuss what changes and impacts BIM will bring to us, our stakeholders, and our contractors. At ADB, we are responsible for an infrastructure of about 1,200 kilometers of cantonal roads and a cycle route network of about 900 kilometers. We invest at least 200 million euros every year for preventive maintenance, road renewals, capacity improvements, new build projects, and traffic management. This helps us to maintain the value of our infrastructure, which has a replacement value of about 6 billion euros. We have a project portfolio of about 750 projects and approximately 50 construction sites running each year. A very important target for us is the yearly renewal rate. The requirement is at about 40 kilometers per year, and in the last few years we managed between 30 and 35 kilometers. So this leads me to the strategic goals for digitization. One, of course, is the renewal rate, and it's one of the most important strategic goals of the ADB, and we want to significantly increase it. But there are others. As we live in a relatively densely populated area with a high volume of traffic, one of our biggest challenges is to ensure that we have enough qualified professionals with experience in planning and construction. Unfortunately, our culture of working together is often characterized by harsh claim management, which isn't helpful to encourage young people in starting a career in our field. And finally, with better information about our infrastructure, we want to be able to manage our planning even better. In addition, digitally available information should help us to make our construction processes and the use of resources more sustainable in the future. So in Switzerland, there's still a traditional division between planning, which is done by engineering companies, and construction, for which the construction companies are responsible. This leads to processes of planning and construction with many breaks in between. With the digital transformation, we want greater consistency and availability of information throughout the planning and construction process. In the future, the digital twin should be at the center and provide us with information we need for planning, maintenance measures, and controlling our operating facilities. The results of the planning and construction process should therefore become available in a network information model that we can refer to again and again for the various operational and maintenance tasks. We want to incorporate these experiences in our documents. Oh, sorry. Now I got a mixture. We are aware we cannot do these developments overnight. It will rather be a long process. In 2018, we started with our initial thoughts on BIM and the management of ATB and developed a strategy on how we want to approach the introduction of BIM. We developed a schedule for this, which we divided into 3 main phases, each lasting 3 years. Right now, we are starting the period of standardization, based on the first experiences we made in the last 3 years. So we have started with about 15 pilot projects. These pilot projects help us to get more knowledge and more experience on how BIM affects our processes and on how BIM can be applied on the construction site. We want to incorporate this experience into our documents and processes that regulate the cooperation with our contractors. According to our schedule, this will be one of the main tasks in the next 3 years. It is our goal to start all our projects with BIM up from 2025, if possible, I must say, as there are still many uncertainties and we are depending on our contractors, the progress in standardization and the software industry. Our first priority is working with BIM in the planning and construction process. Whether we'll also be ready by then to integrate this information into our network information model is probably more uncertain. Hans-Jakob will now present what our IT infrastructure looks like today and what it should look like tomorrow.
Thank you, Matthias. From the very beginning, it was clear that the information cycle should be realized with Openbim. In the first phase, information models were developed in parallel, and initial requirements for the project information models to be delivered were defined. The asset information model is not directly realized as a single overall information model. Rather, it consists of individual parts, partial information models that are linked to a higher level logic, resulting from processes, project, portfolio management, and legal requirements of the ATB. The structures of the requirement documents are conceptually defined. However, they must prove themselves in practical use in pilot projects. Improvements are continuously incorporated. For each project, the contract conditions, project structure, and asset structure are to be worked out. The structures mentioned are important in that they serve the connecting logic between model elements and documents, as we will see later. The information models are the basis for building the required IT landscape of the ITB. The existing preservation management applications will be joined by planned applications for traffic and maintenance management. These are not part of the present project due to the increasing project complexity and implementation risks involved. At the center will be the BIM server, where the network information model will be stored on. In addition to the informed 3D model, the NIM will also contain the quality-related documents and manuals linked to the model. The NIM contains all information related to the inventory. The project information models are created on a BIM CDE provided by the contractors. ATB requires information transfers during the ongoing projects due to its own needs and legal requirements. The delivered PIMs are merged into a NIM. This NIM will play an intermediary role between the BIM CDE and the asset management applications from the very beginning. In the future, the BIM server will take on the role as a central data source for inventory information in the ATB. ATB orders two delivery objects, namely the real building and the virtual information model. Both are developed within the framework of the same project. The necessary management processes for both objects have selective dependencies but are very different. The information model will allow optimizing the management, operation, and so on, but also the implementation of structural changes or deconstruction in an economic and environmentally conscious way. Information will, for example, enable the automation of operational planning and management in the maintenance processes. For the management of the information model, additional capabilities are needed in the organization. For their integration, the current organization of ATB must be expanded by new organizational units, specifically on the topic of IT and data management. We assume that the number of positions will have to be increased over several years, but that the positions can be saved elsewhere in the organization afterwards due to the efficiency gains. The goal is to bring the staff back to the current level in the long term, despite the new tasks. Today, the value of an asset is equated with the condition-dependent value of the structures. The use of information models in maintenance and so on leads to efficiency gains compared to today. These gains can be understood as fictitious income and are to be assigned to the existence of the information models. The value of the the value is condition dependent. Information that is not up to date leads to a reduction in efficiency gains, in extreme cases even to their becoming impossible. The information model has to be actively maintained, which requires corresponding resources and causes costs. With each year that ATB completely forgoes the use of information models, it cannot realize this value. Even so, money is spent on it during the planning and construction work on a project. ATB orders the information model as an additional delivery object. As with the building, the model becomes the property of the ATB upon its acceptance. Aware of the fact that this is a complex project that is also fraught with major and mostly external uncertainties, the ATB has decided on a step-by-step approach. Based on the strategy, the first BIM documents were created and as a basis for ordering information models and at the same time the organization, the processes and the IT systems were subjected to an analysis. Aligned with the learning objectives, pilot projects were launched. Projects were deliberately selected that were in different project phases so that as much as experience as possible could be gathered. Experiences gained are evaluated phase by phase and flow back into the corresponding topic-oriented working groups, which prepare the basis for projects that are entering the corresponding phases. In this way, we learn together with contractors involved how digital projects can and should function. And we gain valuable experience that flows into ATB's own standards, instruments, and processes. Besides the vision and strategy, the active leadership role of the management in the transformation process is the real success factor. The ATB management team recognized this right at the beginning and committed to it. At the same time, they did not shy away from hard work of implementation. Thus, concrete ideas were developed on how the ATB should organize itself for the duration of the transformation project. After evaluating several models, it was decided to set up a temporary organization for digitalization with BIM. It consists of the element BIM user group, BIM experts, and topic-oriented working groups. These organizational elements were staffed with motivated and interested people from the ATB organization. In addition to their traditional tasks, these peoples are now also working as digital developers. This requires greater commitment. The people act as BIM ambassadors and bring their knowledge and their own motivation to their colleagues in the parent organization. They are also intended to act as coaches in the training phase 24-25. In addition, they naturally bring their experience from numerous projects and direct feedback from the BIM pilot projects into the BIM organization. This ensures that new solutions are fit for practice. Project management is still, let's face it, not the forte of engineers, architects, and contractors today, nor is it that of the clients. And yet, we want to build faster, better, with fewer resources, in an increasingly difficult environment. This is not possible without effective and efficient project management. With digitalization, new methods, tools, forms of cooperation, responsibility, task, etc. are coming to the project managers of the client. If we want to consciously lead a digital project, we have to rethink project management. It differs from the current form primarily in the necessary ability to order BIM, to monitor the creation of information, and to accept the resulting objects, as well as the increased coordination requirements due to the newly added task level of information model. Besides that, it will require new software tools not yet available on the market. To apply standards to projects in a similar way, ATB has created its own practical standards and instruments for the use in project realization. For the digitalization, it is essential not only to create and structure models in the sense of a 3D image of a building, but also the associated technology, and probably for a long time to come, is created in the form of documents. Let us think of organizational charts, quality reports, or static calculations. From ATB's point of view, information from these documents should be linked to the corresponding model element. Redundant data should be avoided, and quality of it should be checked automatically in a similar way as of models. The ATB uses an approach in which the information is divided into 3 levels, namely project, building, and information model. Information is assigned to a level. Organizational chart, for example, are assigned to the project level and are managed there. This means that they do not exist at the information level and are therefore not included in documents such BEP. The organizational chart is only referenced in it. With the chosen procedure, a clarity of thought is created that allows the further automation of ATB internal and project processes. From ATB's point of view, standardization serves to increase the efficiency of the entire construction industry. However, the current status is far from being sufficient for an effective digitalization. And now Matthias is taking over for the market and relationships.
Thank you, Hans-Jakob. Besides these technical aspects, Hans-Jakob mentioned there are some other aspects we have to keep in mind when we are talking about BIM. First of all, it's the contractors. The market of contractors in our region is not very big. We have about 25 contractors working for us. Almost all of them are mid-sized companies. And we have about 40 engineering firms working for us in the field of civil and structural engineering. Most of them have between 10 and 30 employees. Some of our contractors are very active with BIM. Usually, these are the large companies with the necessary human and financial resources. However, there are also some small innovative companies that have already started using BIM a few years ago. The vast majority of our contractors, however, are only slowly approaching the topic of BIM. We notice mixed feelings regarding BIM. Some contractors show great enthusiasm for BIM, others are more skeptic about it. And we have to take these uncertainties and fears seriously, because we cannot afford to lose many contractors as a result of BIM. A lively, competitive market must be in our interest for the future too. There's another topic, our employees. The employees on our side, but also on our contractor side. Besides being attractive for companies working for us, we all have to put our efforts into increasing the number of young people starting a career in engineering or in construction. We rely on them, as we need for all the changes and the challenges we are facing qualified people to manage them, and we need them to implement BIM in the future. And especially in our region or in Switzerland, we face another problem. Approximately 500 kilometers of our 1,200 kilometers of cantonal roads are within cities and villages. Here we have to coordinate our projects in cooperation with the municipalities and the utility companies. This makes the introduction of BIM even more complex, because so far there are only very few of them thinking about BIM. This in turn makes the task more difficult for the engineering and construction companies. They often have two or more different clients on a project with a very different stage of BIM. So, coming to the findings or our results so far. For a public owner, cycle of our infrastructure. However, digitalization can help us to increase our renewal rate. Whether it will also help us to compensate for the lack of qualified professionals is probably more uncertain. BIM is just one part of digital transformation, as we have to deal with it also in other parts of our public administration. Working on our projects for the last 3 years, parts with BIM, we know now that pilot projects help us to develop solutions for our work cases. A fast implementation of what we have learned in our daily routine might be an important success factor. And we depend very much on Openbim and a fast progress in the standardization. And at least, but not at last, the exchange of experience also with other builders will be an important topic for us in the next years. So, showing this little jigsaw, it shows we just put the first parts of a giant jigsaw, and we have to put many, many more together. Thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, thanks Matthias and Hans Jacob. Is there any question on? Okay, Dominic.
Yeah, there's no question on BRELA. I have two on my own.
Yes.
The first one is you were presenting the cost of BIM on 10% over 90% for the infrastructure itself. Do you have any estimation as to the emissions of CO2 emissions and greenhouse gases, generally speaking? That's the first question. And second question is that you were implementing in one of your slides the common data environment and the BIM data element. How do you protect the know-hows of the companies which are working for you?
These are very good questions. The first one, we cannot answer it. We have no estimation about how much this will affect the CO2 carbon dioxide emission. So it was not that topic so far to us. And the second one, it's a very important topic as we rely on our data and we have to make sure that no one can get to them. But also we have to make sure that those who are allowed to get to them, that for them it's open. So we don't have the solution so far.
I may add that we follow a policy where the BIM CD is in the responsibility of the contractors. So meaning they are in full responsibility for their data, and they only transfer the data to us that we are asking for. So they are in full control, so there is no, in our opinion, no problem with the ownership of the data.
Your answer is very wise, and thank you for it, is that contractors and engineering companies are willing to protect their know-hows and to serve the needs of their customers to whom you belong. And that's it. They give what they are able to give as long as it's not less than what you need.
And on the other hand, the owners are have also to protect their information. So this is why we order the information model and take it in our property. This is really important, and we do not allow basically to sell the data from the engineer, or to be sold from the engineer to other third parties.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, then we go to the next presentation, which will be also on live. It will be Openbim implementation and use cases for local public authorities, stakes and feedbacks. The presenter would be Mr. Remy Montorio from MEL. He has been involved in several road projects abroad, in France and abroad, and developing technical knowledge and processes, process management practices. So please welcome Remy.
Perfect. So welcome everybody for this presentation. So today I will present a case on Openbim implementation for local public authority. So it's pretty linked to the previous presentation with how public authority can implement a BIM strategy and what are the feedbacks from real-life projects and what are the stakes that we encountered. So first, a few words about the Lille metropolis. So I will call it Lamel. It's more simple. So it's north of France, 95 cities altogether in an intercommunal structure, and with about 1.2 million inhabitants. Many roads, as you can see, many bridges, many real estates, and over 700 million euros of investment each year for infrastructures, and a new scheme, that's the left-hand side picture, of 2 billion euros works for transportation infrastructure to come in the next decade. For all these projects, the scope of ML is pretty large. So first, we manage roads, transportation, public areas, utilities, and public domain. So there's a large scope of involvement, and on this type of project or operation, we can be the owner, we can manage internally the engineering or externalize it. We can internalize or externalize the work supervision, and the same for the operation and maintenance. So there are a lot of scenarios, and this possibility to internalize a certain type of intervention allows us to test, to experiment also the BIM regarding operation, regarding engineering, and what can be the cross benefits of doing BIM at different stages of the project. To sustain all the policies of the LAMEL, we adopted a BIM transformation framework called BIM MyMail, which has to ensure three main features. So and mainly to induce a change in information management along the project and along the operation and maintenance stage. So it's better management, increased quality of data, and to also ensure also a transverse vision between all disciplines, all different type of domains we intervene on. Just a slight picture of our strategy. I will not develop it too much, but as explained by the previous speakers, this type of strategy induces training of internal teams. It induces to implement a strategy to accompany the projects. So it implies for us urban projects, buildings, road and utilities, industrial installation. So very diverse experiences and projects. We have to also ensure that the value chain can answer our needs. So we have collaboration groups with local stakeholders. We ensure that in tenders we can mobilize expertise. And we are conducting also R&D actions like the works we are currently developing with the CSTB on the digital twin or AI technology. What kind of projects we are developing in BIM? So we have currently 30 different projects. Part of this project are here. So we have small streets, like 800 meter streets with some buildings just nearby. We have the plant, water treatment plant. We have urban projects, so the Lille Metropolis Gate. We have the Rue Solferino, which is one of the main streets of Lille city center. and also some kind of mixed infrastructure, road and light trail project with the Cité Administrative, which is south of Lille. On all these projects, I promise my colleagues that BIM can give or can add value to their project is we want to ensure that we have a better understanding of the existing infrastructures. We want to ensure better communication during the project process, and we, in the final stage of this project, we want to ensure that the operation and maintenance can have data about the constructed asset. All these projects and the whole process we are developing is based on BIM, GIS, and all collected data that we want to make available for the project. Of the Boulevard Gambetta in Tourcoing, so it's one of the city of La Melle, on which we implemented a BIM process. So it's a 2-kilometer boulevard, which, let's say, traditional road improvement with a bit of landscaping, with trees, with sewage, with gas, and all utilities you can encounter in this kind of this type of situation. The objective of BIM of this kind of project is first decision making. In fact, when you talked with authority representative, what they want is to decide and to have a clear vision of what the project and how the project will be once implemented. So that's what we want to manage and want to improve with BIM. Second is to manage design risks, mainly for utilities and underground structures. And then for this project, we wanted to improve the works staging and the impact, in fact, of works on the actual circulation and road circulation along this boulevard. To complete this project, we have also many other projects, but today I will speak mainly of this one. Just to have a slight view of the type of organization we can manage for this type of project. So on these examples, we have in-house design of roads, sewerage, and landscaping. We externalized the studies for heat and potable water networks, and we ensured in-house BIM management and coordination. The particularity of this project is that internally we wanted to implement also first, let's say, process of BIM project reviews. So it's not as frequent as we would like. It's only, we'll say, between 3 weeks and a month to update the models and to make the coordination. But what we want is to increase this frequency as to ensure that we improve and we have team learning how to manage this data and to ensure that clashes and all issues regarding coordination are well managed. We use very various type of software to ensure that. I will talk about GIS and BIM and then about asset data. First, about existing condition and data collection. The truth is that as a public authority, we have a large set of data that we can mobilize, including LiDAR, 3D meshes, and we have the possibility to acquire a lot more of data. So data is not a problem in sense of existence of the data. The problem is when you want to use this data and when you want to have ready-to-design data. In fact, what we see is that more data doesn't mean more accuracy. In fact, the input quality And the use case defined when you acquire this data is very important. And in most of time, if the use case is not well defined in advance, in fact, the data will be of no use or only for to ease early stages studies. So we really have to think about how we capitalize or we acquire the data to generate the DTM, for example, based on cloud points. Because if it's not expertized, in fact, cloud points is very too easy to use, even for a small boulevard of 2 kilometers long. Then the next issue about data and existing condition are the utilities. In fact, even if today we can know, and we can with radar technology, know where are, not as precisely as we would like, but we can know nearly where are the old utilities buried. But if we capitalize this data, we manage and we design our project. When we give back this data to all utilities managers, like EDF in France and all other actors of these sectors, in fact, when we ask for this information again 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years later, in fact, we will have lost all the data acquired during the detailed design of this infrastructure. So that's very a gap in the data, capitalized on data. I know it's true in France. It's true also in other countries. And it's a very key point for urban projects and where our authority is thinking about how to overcome this issue. And then the last issue is the cost. In fact, sometimes to acquire data and to acquire complex data is very costly. So if we make the acquisition, we want to give value to this data and to ensure that we will not acquire the same data 1 year, 2 years, 3 years later on. So it has to be capitalized. Next subject, the link with GIS. So historically, metropolis, French metropolitan authorities have collected very large amount of data, and now we have to think about how this system can evolve and to ensure that we can use their data in our design or in our project management, and in return, how we can give them back, in fact, our data. The truth is, on this point, is that all the import and export are possible, but are very, very tricky each time. If you want to import data from GIS in BIM, you will really decrease, in fact, the level of structuration of data, so you will make an export. And then you are not very sure that you will be able to give back the same information to the system. So we have this kind of problems with water utilities, for example. And what we would like is to be able to manage some kind of temporary GIS references between the objects and to make all this system truly linked, in fact, and truly very viable in time in terms of life of the data. One point also, and which is not really often addressed, but I heard that you had the same project in Switzerland, is the assets governancy and the fact that, yes, you will work for Lumiere for this project and construct sewerage, for example, pipes. But in fact, this data, we will not manage it at time. We'll give it to another actor, to another authority, which is in linked also with the city. So in fact, there are very complex governancy of all the data you will put into the model, and how to address the link between digital twin and the authority is a really key point in terms of perspective and long-term strategy. Next and last feedback I would like to make is on asset data. And in fact, what we have encountered in terms of project management is that out of the format and IFC use on our project, in fact, we have seen that what we miss more is the languages, and is the language and the property sets to be implemented in our models. We need, and that's a word we conducted on an experimentation with the CERIB on this project. So I think Rémi Lanois, we held a presentation specifically on this subject later on. But what we experimented is that we need more data and more link between the existing product properties and our models. Because like for the sewerage and the water pipes, in fact, all these products come from manufacturers. So they have all the data. What we want to do as an owner or as a tenderer is to specify a product, and in return, at the end of the project, to retrieve all the data from these equipment. So today, in fact, the main offering tools are able to do this manually. What really we would like in the future to be able to link this offering tool like Covadis to Civil 3D and other design software, and to be able to have this kind of objects, property sets, data dictionary, and to add data and to add value, in fact, to our models. That's a key point to be able to go to maintenance and operation stage. Okay, so to a first point of conclusion on these subjects, I'm often asked about how to increase local authorities' interest for BIM and why there is so few cities, metropolis, interested in infrastructure and how BIM can be adapted to our context. From our point of view, the actual value proposition presented by designer and software vendors is not sufficiently focusing on regular client needs, because that's what we are. As you can see, we are representing about 50% of the French infrastructure market, so we have not mega or very, very large project every day, but we are the day-to-day business, and small projects are often conducted by local authorities. What we want, in fact, as public authorities, is to ensure high service quality, because that's what we have to manage for our citizens, to ensure that their bike, that when they walk in the streets and or drive, in fact, that the infrastructure are in good condition, or when they take the metro, for example. Then very specific criteria is on how to optimize the maintenance cost, because if you know better your assets, you will have a good investment on the actual condition and actual asset. And then it's how to support decision-making, how to facilitate the stakeholders' engagement and the citizen engagement. Donc, these 3 items are really what we want and how we want to work with the engineers, with the design teams to make more value of BIM for our authorities. Next question I'm often asked is BIM can be implemented for BIM for local by local authorities? What we experimented is that yes, there's no gap, there's no difficulty, I would say, in using the actual processes, the actual tools, and to be able to implement a first level of BIM and to be able to develop a strategy around data. There are some gaps and some difficulties that you will have to overcome, but mainly, in fact, the bases are in here. Then what we have to do as public authority is to convince our decision makers about how BIM can sustain our strategy regarding digitalization, regarding the twins, because when I speak to the managers of the Lille metropolis, in fact, they don't really care about BIM. What they care about is our city digital twin. So we have to explain and to develop, in fact, our answer to be able to explain how both subjects are related and how BIM is a first step to go to a digital twin. Last elements is on what are the gaps and the subjects, topics to be overcome. I will not go through all these elements I already talked about, but three subjects. First, the uses, what we are expecting as a public authority is to have a vision on what's possible on small, on real-life projects, not on only on mega, metro or canal projects. Then is to be able to develop processes and more efficient processes with our designer, we have our maintainer. And last, about the data and how, in fact, how the value chain can evolve to be able to answer to our need regarding data collection. Openbim and BIM in general, so unique, unified, and reliable data collected, easily shared with all project and asset stakeholders. So yeah, that's a promise. And tomorrow, I would like, in fact, to be able to respect this promise and the promise I made to my colleagues. But we still have very big challenges to overcome. But BIM for infrastructure still and is already possible for our authorities. I thank you for your attention and available for your questions.
Thank you, Remy. Dominic, is there any questions on Umbrella? I have at least one question. I think I have quite many questions, but have you created any process for the initial data gathering? Because you get the initial data from so many different sources. Mm-hmm. Have you created some kind of process that what is like real and good data?
Yeah, in fact, we created a process with the GIS department to ensure that we have a platform, in fact, to define your project location and to be able to collect all, let's say, roof data that we have in a particular area. So if you want to tomorrow start a project anywhere in the metropolis area, you have all your basic data available. And then, in fact, we have defined, let's say, complementary processes to be able to quickly, in fact, collect additional data because we have drones, we have 3D scanners, so we are able to go on site and collect more data. Then the issue is often to be able to clarify in advance what use cases, how this data will be used to be ensured that we collect and that the data we made available is properly used, and that's always a challenge.
Yes, I know. That was the reason that I was asking that. Yeah. I know that it's challenging to gather the initial data.
Yeah.
So, Dominic, do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Remy, and we go to the next and last presentation. It will be video, so let's see how does that work. The titles would be "The race to support a better information flow on infrastructure works is approaching the finishing line." So hard to introduce these two people who are going to present, because I think quite much everybody knows them already.